since a young age you were interested in cannabis and it's been a part of your journey. Can we just talk a little bit about that? Like, where did your journey start with cannabis?
So I don't know how much of this you must record
Okay.
but we'll see how it comes out. But so I was a weird kid. I was maybe overstimulated, but I was the kid that spent my days in the library. I would go and I had a lot of interests out there, but I would learn a lot about them. I would go and buy books, and you could buy me subscriptions for my birthday anytime. Read lots of magazines, but I was also, it was quite easy to influence me. And I was an Afrikaner, and I was in the voortrekkers, and I had some mates that got pulled into, and I'm talking really young, I'm 12, 13 years old.
I see.
And I got pulled into an ideology at that stage, it was very wrong. It was this white supremacy ideology, but I was quite into it. I mean, I read Mein Kampf when I was 13 years old, and was part of this organization called Boere Jeug. We would just form the AVB in South Africa, and I was quite keen to follow this very, very weird doctrine for my folk and fatherland, basically.
Yeah.
And then when I was in grade 9, which was those days standard 7, I met with my parents, which obviously to this day thought were the wrong friends. They were the bad guys. But it got introduced to Dagga. But not in a peer-pressured way. Because I was this inquisitive kid, I still wanted to know a bit more about it. So I had actually someone give me a stop at school, tell me how to smoke it. I tried to get some literature on it, couldn't find it, but I still went after school into the forest behind our house. I broke a Coke bottle, a 300ml Coke bottle. I remember it well, broke it, and it broke well. I could never actually get that clean break again after that. That first time, lucky, a clean break. And he showed me how to make the gierig you put in the back. So I took out my Stuyvesant packet, took out the silver paper, rolled the gierig, and I took that stop, I mean, bitter and all. I just ground it a bit. I put it in there, and I sat there with my lighter, and I smoked that pipe. Yes, man, and I was immediately gerook. Nothing about that build-up that needs to happen in your fat cells or any of that. I was immediately so gerook. And I went home immediately, which was probably a big mistake. And I was paranoid, man. And I went to my room, and I closed it, and I put on music, and I was playing Bob Marley. And he's got that song where until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of your eyes. Is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. I've got to say war. That song came over. It's about war. I think it's in war, that one, yeah. Anyway, so that song came up, and that sort of would play over in my mind. And literally that moment actually changed, man. After that, I started also to, obviously I was a lighter looking for Dagga all the time, because this didn't really trigger me. I loved it. Yeah. So I would meet up with Rastas, I would meet up with colored people, which I had no clue. I mean, we were talking apartheid South Africa.
Yes.
You don't see a whitey in the township unless he goes to score drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was that whitey on my bicycle, chasing after the Rastas and going to play after school, go play soccer with him and get gerook with him.
And then you started realizing that they are actually also just people.
Yes. So I mean, I don't know what would have become of me if I didn't get Dagga at that stage. And then I smoked. I was a regular Dagga smoker till I got into more harder drugs. I like my downers, and cannabis just made me too paranoid.
I see.
So I actually stopped smoking when I was about 26. Drank hard. I mean, on and off.
Went into
my whole life.
alcohol,
So I drank hard, and then in my early 40s. It came back into my life only.
Okay.
And then became a substitute. I mean, I stopped drinking about 4.5 years ago completely. That's completely behind me.
Wow.
Yeah, but cannabis is still a big part of my life. And then, I mean, I was involved in this landscaping, corporate farming industry. And then cannabis came about, and I thought, listen, it's time to make this big jump. My wife had a nice job in the high-end tourism industry. So she was quite well paid. She had a nice contract, and we could make that leap, and that was in 2019. And then COVID happened in 2020, where that whole high-end tourism industry just fell apart. Nobody went to Africa to lodges anymore and pay $1,000 a night for that.
Yeah.
So by August 2020, Ilse basically had to resign her job. She said, listen, enough. We can't work for half pay, double the time. Nothing's happening here. And she also had to come on board. So since August 2020, what you see here is what we eat, live, drink, sleep, everything.
Yeah.
That is our entire life. So we had to incorporate our entire family into this business. So despite the potential legalities about it, but everybody's involved. I mean, yeah,
I appreciate that beautiful testimony that you share, because it's nice to hear how like all these sequence of events led up to this. Is like as if it's your destiny, you know. This is your destiny.
Yeah, I feel it.
Because there's a massive contribution into the cannabis space from your side.
Chiba came around, and so I was involved with him right from the beginning. We've got some products that we bring to the market together. We've got a 3-day commercial cannabis cultivation course, a 1-day commercial workshop, sort of like a bridging course. And we'll do one in Joburg also at Jazz Farm. So I want to hear from you what you are here to do. Our open days or member days are really, we try to theme it through the year and then invite our members to just come and interact with us. I really do workshops or things like that. It's about the plants. We're very privileged to be here on the grounds of Myrtle Clark, of the Jazz Farm and Fields of Green for All's head office. Together with Chiba, I present various courses. We narrowed it down to a 3-hour workshop. We'll move down to the tunnel and carry on there with some practical stuff. It's going to get hot though.
Welcome to Dagga Farmacy Jazz Farm.
So this is our permaculture garden. This is more just where we come and plant out plants, herbs, flowers, most things. We also grow a lot of seed in here. And then I do have a little bit of space to just trial and test some genetics. So all of these things is a pheno hunt. We're not really, we haven't sold clones of these plants yet. We're still testing the flowers, see what they're producing. And but really promising results, and guys feel free to touch the plants and smell and have a look. This is our research and our...
The second day I give them a bit of training. I would do that, and I would leave them, and if I come back and they even a little bit water, I would just give it right back on. And I would leave them. No, through the day. I would start to adapt it. And then as you go into that vegetative state after week 4, you would push up your nitrogen and really give it a lot of nitrogen while still keeping up with your other nutrients, but in less ratios, and you start to push your calcium. And that is your period of vegetative growth.
Early flower, I'll do sulfur just to make sure all spores are dead. Then I don't have a problem with PM again. And then predatory mites and those things, companion planting and predatory mites and keeping it in the biological ways to fight those problems is but the best route. So yeah, we try to do 3 or 4 a year in each location.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's also for me important. And then to put this business together, initially when people started to bring me genetics and I started to learn about hemp, for me, I couldn't continue without knowing what's in the plant. So the value of analytics became very important. So I was again very lucky to find the right people and find the right early investors to put together an analytical laboratory called Qure.
How's it? Welcome to Craft Cannabis TV. We are out in Montague, which is 2.5 hours just out of Cape Town. We've come to visit a testing lab. I'm super excited. There are not many labs in this country and very, very important part of our cannabis industry to take us to the next level.
So it first does a few rinses of the solvent. And this is a little container in the middle is the waste. This is the acetate solvent. It's supposed to rinse. It goes exactly where the sample is. These are a few pumps. This is what's freeing up my time. So now I can run cannabinoids and terpenes at the same time. I can grow, I can do lots of preps. It helps a lot. I mean, this does all the running, but the processing is still. There it's on the column. And there you can see the chromatogram as it prevails.
Yes.
So Qure Analytics, which you can visit at the next stage at Montague. We've got Brenda Marks there, who's an analytical chemist who came to the party with some equipment, also with some money, and we've got some other investors in.
I'm here with Brenda. Nice to meet you.
Hi guys.
Can you tell us a bit about who you are and why you got into this cannabis space?
My name is Brenda Marks. I've got a master's degree in chemistry. I went into the pharmaceutical industry. I worked there as a R&D chemist for about 2 years. Then I went into essential oils. I worked at an essential oils company for another year or so, and then I went to another pharmaceutical company where I ended up being lab manager for 5 years. And then I went into the alcohol industry, and I just decided I needed to do something of more importance.
Okay. So was it an actual conscious decision to move into cannabis, or did you find it, or did it find you?
We found each other.
Yeah, perfect. Nice meeting in the middle.
Yeah, so I started the journey. Well, I've been comfortable with cannabis for a long time, but I had 2 shoulder operations.
Okay.
And then for the first time, someone gave me some cannabis oil to use to help with recovery and pain management, and it worked so fantastically.
Amazing.
And then because of my background, I looked at this oil and I thought I can do better.
Okay.
And then I started playing with making full extract cannabis oils and so on, and it went really well. But because, again, I'm an analytical chemist, I was wondering, what exactly is in there? And I started wondering about this, and I started looking around, and nowhere could I find a place that could test cannabis.
And we put that business together to provide an analytical service to small-scale researchers and home researchers. We were doing it under the Constitutional Court ruling. We didn't have a SAPRA license, a Department of Agriculture license, nothing at that stage. We were just focusing on getting ourselves to know about what's in the plant and getting other people to know and getting people curious. And we found it also not only from a plant safety and plant knowledge perspective, but definitely also from a customer safety perspective. Because even though we were in the eyes of government still smugglers, selling our edibles, selling our oil, treating our patients, selling our bud or whatever we were doing, we wanted to still provide a safe product also.
Yes, and
a product
without
that you can
data.
safely dose from, where we would know exactly what's inside of it. I can't believe a healer bringing a 1-to-1 CBD to THC ratio plant if I haven't analyzed it myself and grown it out and tested. So I've also got a bit of an interest in analytical chemistry.
Yes, I'm Natie Ferreira. I like to see myself as a farmer who reads a lot. So I do go down rabbit holes, and one of them was analytical technology. And Gina and I identified the analytical space as essential for the growing of the cannabis industry in South Africa.
What inspired you to set this part of the industry up?
Okay, for me, look, we all of us have been in the industry. We love this plant and we really love cannabis. And what this lab has done for us is just to bring all of us together. Because also in South Africa, we've got this wonderful thing called the Constitution. And the Constitutional Court ruling has opened up a lot of use of cannabis in the private space. And we've now stepped into that space. We're allowing those people to ensure potency, safety, and certain guidelines. So we see ourselves now as almost a legal link into this grey, black, illegal market on the one side, but also on the other side, we're dealing with all these exciting new products coming in, like edibles, like jellies, like gummy babies, CBD oil that's flooding the market. We're stepping into that space, and also now into the pharmacological space, where we can do testing. So we do get exposure to the whole industry, which is what makes it very exciting for us.
Amazing.
Very little knowledge around it. We're learning a lot, but we've got some specialists working on it. I've got Kristen de Jager in there, who is a microbiologist.
The way we do DNA sequencing has just changed. In the past, we used to kind of blast the sample apart, paste it together, and then try and make a picture. Now we've got to a way where we can put a whole sample onto a puck, and we can analyze that whole puck and look at a community of organisms in that.
Okay.
So yeah, from that I've wanted to start developing research projects now where I can start applying that to cannabis. So the analytics is one of the various stages in my PhD that I want to build together now.
And then my wife Ilse helps us on the admin and also mostly on the marketing, the digital communication side. And then we've got Jean Jeffrey is another partner in there who's from the administrative side. So
Jean Jeffrey, been with Qure now for a year. We're just a year old. Cannabis came across my path. It wasn't what I went looking for, and I found I'd been working with Natie for a while, and we both had a love for cannabis. My heart is in the healing, but my head knows we need to test.
yeah, we've just got a nice team together there.
That's beautiful. Okay, so Qure as well, that's another
Yes.
part of the multifaceted.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool, so I'm just going to go through the questions here, Natie. So now we've learned like this is, like there's family involved, like you working with Ilse, your wife, and with Seth, your son. So the question I want to ask is, what role does cannabis play in your life as a family?
Okay, so Ilse does not use cannabis at all. She doesn't like it. It's got a very, very weird effect on her system. She's one of those few people that does not need to get high also.
Yes.
You know there's people like that.
Yeah, my ma's also.
Yeah, also it means so she grew up in a family like that. We had the opposite. My mum was very much into prescription pills. My dad was a garage alcoholic. And they like to get high. We like to get fucked, bro. I mean, I'm like that. Since I was a lighty, I would do anything. Smoke the pigs, we'll take moonflowers, malt, but to tell me this thing's gonna make you high. Even the nutmeg in my mum's cupboard wasn't safe. I mean, and the mace, because I've heard somewhere that this thing might be able to make you high. But some people are not like that. So my wife's definitely not like that. Well, Seth is 21. He's running our branch. We're opening a branch up in Joburg. He's up there now, in the deep end. Really have to swim now with quite a lot of responsibility on his shoulder. He doesn't drink at the moment, but he smokes cannabis occasionally, not even on a day, maybe at the moment on a daily basis, I don't know, but not even as regular as his dad.
Yeah.
I never had to hide my drinking. I could ask my kid to go get a beer for daddy. Go pour me a glass of wine. Go pour me a brandy, man, if I was a brandy drinker. And my kids could do that from a young age. They would take a sip from my Savannah.
So why can't they
and
do
I would
that
not
with...
moor him. We would joke about it. So why can't they do that with cannabis? And that is the whole point, because this thing is definitely less harmful.
Sure.
But even if we assume the same harm, that's how we should deal with it then. And if you take it further, if you look at our Liquor Act, it actually allows for the occasional use of alcohol by a minor under adult supervision for sacramental use, because people use alcohol for sacrament in churches. I mean, the Christians use it as a sacrament, I mean, with communion. So we should treat this exactly the same, or with less restriction than we treat it.
Yes, especially if you look at the statistics of the potential harm of alcohol and of cannabis, you know, it's a no-brainer. That
Here's something most people don't know about marijuana. Officially, the US federal government classifies it as a Schedule I drug. That is the strictest classification they have, period, full stop. That means the government thinks marijuana is more dangerous than Schedule II drugs like cocaine or meth. It means they think marijuana is on the same plane as heroin. About 3,000 people died from heroin overdoses in 2010. You know how many people died directly from overdosing on marijuana? 0. And I don't mean 0 in 2010, I mean 0 in basically recorded human history. Which isn't to say smoking hay bales worth of pot is a good idea. It's not. But notice what I did there. You hear that all the time. That's what we in the media business call the to be sure paragraph. It's the paragraph where we cover our asses. Almost everyone says it. Even the people who think legalizing marijuana is a great idea don't say it's a good thing. The argument for legalizing pot isn't that pot is good, but that the war on pot is bad. But there is a way in which legal pot could be a huge public health win. I mean, one of the biggest public health wins we've had in decades, saving huge numbers of lives. Let's go back to that drug schedule. There is one drug you won't see on there, even though it is a hell of a lot more dangerous than pot or even cocaine. That's alcohol. The thing about alcohol is it's really bad for you, lethally bad for you. I don't want to be a hypocrite here. I enjoy a drink. But the evidence on this, you cannot run away from it. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention say there are 88,000 deaths each year attributable to alcohol. About 25,000 of them are just direct overdoses. The numbers here are really amazing. A Columbia University study found that being drunk increases the risk of a fatal accident 13-fold. Pot, by contrast, increases the risk less than 2-fold. Then there's all the other nasty stuff alcohol leads to. It's a big contributor to violence, to crime, to addiction. It breaks up families. It gives people cancer. It gives them liver failure. People forget this, but prohibition, we laugh at it now, but it was happening for a reason. People drank more then, and it was a scourge. So this is a question with legal pot. Would people use it as a replacement or a complement to alcohol? If it's a replacement, it's a huge deal. Marijuana is a lot safer to use than alcohol. People don't die from it. They rarely kill others while on it. More marijuana and less alcohol means fewer deaths from intoxication, fewer drunk driving fatalities, less crime, less violence. But if marijuana complements alcohol rather than replacing it, then it's a problem. If it makes people, for whatever reason, drink more, then legalizing pot might actually make our alcohol problem worse. Now I'm going to say something that kind of sucks. We actually don't know the answer here. There's encouraging early evidence. In a survey of Canadian medical marijuana users, 41% said they replace alcohol with marijuana. Another survey of California medical marijuana users found they drink less than the national average. But those are medical marijuana users. They might be different than the general population. People using marijuana for fun might have a very different relationship to alcohol than people using marijuana because they're sick. But this isn't just something we can study. It's something we can affect, that we can change. Since we know a lot of people want to use some kind of mind-altering substance, we could arrange public policy to push them towards a safer one. But right now, we can't, because the federal government, against all the evidence, thinks marijuana is an incredibly, insanely dangerous substance with absolutely no redeeming value under any circumstance. What are they smoking?
One thing I also never had to hide was my grape growing. I only counted my plants because the industry body wanted to have a sort of a clue on how many grapevines are out there. But I never had to count, had to sort of hide my grape plants. I had thousands of them. Yes. And I delivered them to a wine cellar without any issues. And then the wine cellar had to do a lot of compliance on them. Then the compliance started. So and that's exactly how I feel about cannabis growing too, that we should see it in that same light. That this plant, while it's still in the field, and at the moment it's harvested, up till that point, that we should not see it as any harmful substance, anything. It is still a primary product that needs to be processed somewhere before it becomes usable or psychoactive. I mean, it's an agricultural product.
So this leads quite nicely into my next question. We're very blessed to be in this transitional phase where it's like the stigmatization is all falling away and we're heading almost like into the end of the prohibitionist era. What I want to ask you is, like, how do you think South Africa and also more in terms of the cannabis community of South Africa, how do you think that has changed since the 2018 Concord ruling?
Look, a lot of people came out of the closet, if we can call it that, very quickly. We saw the cannabis expos happening where we had about 20,000 people in total, maybe, with interest, coming to the fore and saying, we smoke cannabis. And we had also the opening up of medicinal cannabis, because so all of a sudden came a big interest in the healing aspect of cannabis. So we had quite a big introduction of sick people, aging people, palliative care, people who were running towards cannabis, because we also believed at that stage that this constitutional court ruling will allow our healers to come to the fore, and a lot of them did. They used that opportunity to put up their hands and say, we've got a cannabis oil company, we make oil, we heal people with it, here's our story, whatever. So that also got that big introduction. But all of us it was that perpetual imminence. I mean, that this industry is going to happen now. And we're going to get legalization now. So people that were forced to test out various models and whatever. And I think we quickly learned, and that's my experience, and I don't know if it's everybody's, but we've maybe reached a cap that the potential consumer of cannabis that's going to come out of his comfort zone and step into a spot where he's going to access legal cannabis has diminished. We're in a very interesting space in South Africa, where we've got this big black market where people will not, because we haven't paid any attention to that. we have not paid attention to the guy on the street corner selling Dagga from Lesotho or from Swaziland that came through this whole long supply chain down. We're ignoring that, and that is still where the bulk of the Dagga in South Africa is sold. Millions per day.
Yes.
And then we've got the guy buying from a dealer that nobody even knows. These guys growing in their closets and at home, supplying 1 or 2 users, 3 or 4 users, basically running their own little private club without knowing it, was doing it really private. So we've reached some sort of a cap, which I think is interesting. I don't know how to get around it. We have a lot of faith, or a lot of people have a lot of faith in hemp to activate a lot of interest in the plant. I think that will also take a bit of time. In the end, I mean, we're just so lucky in South Africa to have this constitutional ruling, constitutional court ruling. We've got this constitution, which is the apex law of our country.